It started with a mirror. I moved into an old apartment downtown, with the kind of creaky wooden floors that seemed to sigh under every step. The apartment had been vacant for years, but the rent was cheap, and I needed a fresh start. In the bedroom, a large antique mirror hung on the wall, so heavy I didn't bother to take it down. It had a gilded frame, tarnished with age, but it added some charm to the otherwise plain room. One night, after a long day at work, I was brushing my teeth, staring absent-mindedly at the mirror. I saw myself, tired eyes, messy hair, normal. But then, I noticed something off. My reflection smiled. I wasn't smiling. I froze. For a split second, I thought I was just imagining it, but the reflection's grin widened, revealing teeth, sharp, too sharp. I blinked, and the smile was gone. My reflection stared back at me, mirroring my expression exactly. I shook it off, chalking it up to exhaustion. Stress does weird things, right? The next few nights, it got worse. Whenever I looked into the mirror, I'd see it. My reflection would move when I didn't. Its eyes would watch me, even when I turned away. Sometimes it mouthed words, but I couldn't understand them. The more I stared, the more twisted it became. Its skin started to look wrong, stretched too tight over its skull, eyes sunken and black. Then, one night, I heard whispering. Soft at first, like a breeze through a window, but there were no open windows. The sound was coming from the mirror. I approached it, heart pounding in my chest, and as I leaned closer, the whispering grew louder, until it was a cacophony of voices all at once. Crying, screaming, begging. I couldn't take it. I grabbed a blanket and threw it over the mirror, covering it completely. The room fell silent. That night, I slept fitfully, but for the first time in days, I didn't see the reflection. The whispering stopped. I convinced myself I was overreacting. But when I woke up the next morning, something was wrong. The blanket was gone. The mirror was uncovered, and written on its surface, in foggy letters, were two words. "Let me out." I stumbled back, my heart racing. The words slowly faded, disappearing into the surface of the glass. My breath caught in my throat. I had to get rid of the mirror. I couldn't stay another night with it in my apartment. Grabbing my phone, I called a friend. She didn't answer, so I texted her. My hands were trembling too much to type properly, but I managed to get a message through. I grabbed a hammer from my toolkit, ready to smash the mirror. I approached it cautiously, afraid of what I might see in the reflection. But the surface was still normal. My reflection stared back, just as tired and afraid as I was. For a moment, I hesitated. Was I going insane? Then it happened. My reflection winked. Not the casual, friendly wink you give to someone as a joke. No, it was slow, deliberate, and menacing. My reflection grinned that same unnaturally wide grin, its eyes gleaming with something sinister. I swung the hammer. Hard. The mirror cracked, spiderwebbing under the blow. But instead of shattering, the cracks started to spread across the glass, warping and twisting the reflection. It was like watching a wound bleed, black liquid seeping from the edges of the cracks, dripping down the surface. The reflection didn't break. It changed. The thing in the mirror wasn't me anymore. Its grin stretched impossibly wide. Its eyes were now hollow pits of darkness, and its hands pressed against the other side of the glass, as if it was trying to break through. The whispering returned, louder now, frantic. "Let me out. Let me out." I hit the mirror again. This time it shattered completely, pieces of glass flying across the room, scattering on the floor. For a moment, there was silence. I let out a breath I didn't realize I was holding. Relief washed over me. It was over. The mirror was destroyed. But then, I heard a faint scratching sound behind me. I turned around slowly, heart thudding in my chest. My reflection? No, the thing was still there, staring at me from every piece of shattered glass on the floor. It was still grinning. And then I realized, breaking the mirror didn't free me from it. It freed it. The whispering grew louder, filling the room with voices. The pieces of broken glass began to move, sliding toward one another as if pulled by some invisible force. They were trying to piece themselves back together. I ran. I grabbed my keys, bolted out of the apartment, and didn't look back. That night, I stayed at a friend's place. I told her everything, but she thought I was just stressed, overworked. She didn't believe me. I didn't blame her. I wasn't sure I believed it myself. But when I went back the next day to grab my things, the apartment was empty. The mirror was gone. Not a single shard of glass remained. It was like it had never existed. Now, whenever I catch my reflection, in windows, in store displays, in other mirrors, I see it. Just for a second. The smile. That too wide grin. It's still watching me. And one day, I'm afraid it'll take me too.